Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome again to our New Start solutions to health challenges and conditions. We thank God for your presence this morning on this early Bermuda day, and not just Bermuda, but those of you who may be joining us around the world. We welcome you to this platform, and we trust and pray that you are fresh this morning to receive more information and inspiration as to how we can face these health challenges that we have and these conditions in our world today. Before we go any further, we want to thank God for this day. So we're going to invite the Lord's presence into our midst. Let us pray. Kind and loving Father, we thank you that every good and perfect gift comes from the Father of lights, in whom there is no variableness nor shadow of turning. Great is your faithfulness. For this, we give you praise, and we ask and pray that today you will be with us on this platform, so that as we learn and grow with the information that we receive, that we will be inspired to take care of these earthen vessels of ours. So bless the facilitator and sustain the mechanisms so that we might enjoy and be refreshed and informed. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Well, again, we want to say thank you for joining us. This is the second of 8 presentations. We're so glad. Can you help me put our hands together for Dr. Gibbons, who did a fantastic job? Just if you want to put a little emoji there or put your hands together. I see some of you showing your faces. That's wonderful. We're family. And we want to thank God for us being in the building today, in the virtual space. I feel like we're in class. I'm glad I'm not the teacher today. So I'm going to hurry up and get out of the way. I just wanted to welcome you here today and trust and pray that, and by the way, it's not too late to invite someone else. That's right. Whenever you have something good, you want to share it and tell somebody about the things that you have learned and experienced. And most of all, how we can help each other. And that's what it's about. We're like links in a chain trying to help each other. So please take the opportunity to share with someone else and let them know that it's not too late to join this class. And speaking of class, you would know that you're going to get a certificate at the end. That's exciting. You know, some people have never received a certificate. I'm not ashamed to tell you, I left school early. Well, let me fix that. They asked me not to come back. But I have received many certificates since which. So I'm telling you today that today is a good day to get that certificate at the end of the series. So stay with the stuff and make sure that you finish the course and stay with the race. And so we did announce to you that today you will get not only a certificate at the end, but you will be quizzed on the information, because we want you to make sure that you're getting this under your belt, so to speak. So please, let's pay attention to the quiz. And I'm going to give you an incentive to make sure that you pay attention to the information. How about this? Pastor Mandus, that's right. I'm willing to give you a gift to one person who gets the quiz right. Now, I know all of you are going to get the quiz right. And so I'm going to leave it to the administrators behind the scenes. I'm not going to put my hand in the basket. I don't know how they're going to work it out. But this is my promise to you, that the person who gets it right, and I almost want to fix it a little better than that. If you're not affiliated with this platform, we're going to give a gift. That's right. If you're not affiliated with those who are sponsoring this, we're going to give you a gift for doing the quiz and getting it right. But it's going to boil down to one person. Don't ask me how they're going to do it, but you're going to submit that quiz. You're going to put your name on it, and they are going to draw one person to give that gift to. And guess what I think the gift should be? Since we're talking about health, why not give you a basket with some healthy foods? How about that? Maybe a basket of some vegetables one week, maybe a basket of some fruits another week. Come on now. All right. So that's my promise to you, that you will get a gift for getting the quiz right. And so 8 weeks, I guess 7 quizzes, Dr. Gibbons. So we're going to have 7 gifts, 7 winners. And of course, we're all winners, but one person is going to represent us by getting that gift. What about it? And it won't be anyone who's affiliated or sponsoring this platform. It's going to be someone who came in and said, I was glad to be a part of the experience. And as a result, I got my certificate, I got my gift, and most importantly, I got the information. And that's what we'll all benefit from. All of us are going to benefit from the information. And by the way, last week, Dr. Gibbons dealt with defeating dysfunctional immunity in COVID-19. And if you come on a little early, you will see some of the previous slides, because we don't want you to come walk away without any benefit. I'll just announce today's topic. Well, let me do this. I'm going to get you to the quiz. How about that? I'm going to announce the topic after that. I'm going to get you to the quiz. So you're going to have a quiz right about now. And of course, a question and answer period. And I'll come back after that. For the quiz, we have none other than Rosalind Mingo.
Okay, good morning. We're so glad that you're here with us today. And we are going to move through the questions quite quickly as we have much to cover today. Okay, so number one, disease can be described as a friend, a teaching moment, a fire alarm, an effort of nature to bring us back to health. That is true. Number two, God's remedies are the complex agencies of nature that will not tax or debilitate the system. That's actually false. They are simple agencies. Oh, by the way, if you have any questions regarding the answers to the quiz, please submit them in the chat so they can be addressed next week. Thank you. Number three, natural means used in accordance with God's will bring about supernatural results. True. Number four, the steps to reversing dis-ease using nature's remedies in their correct order include determine the cause, assist nature, change conditions, and correct wrong habits. That's false. Number five, when you, a physician, understand physiology in its truest sense, your drug bills will be very much smaller, and finally, you will cease to deal out drugs at all. True. Number six, medical care is the third leading cause of death in America, killing 250,000 people in the US hospitals every year. That's true. Number seven, COVID-19 is no match for a healthy, functioning immune system. True. Number eight, innate first responders to all kinds of infections are out of balance in persons with severe COVID-19 infection. True. Number nine, inactivity, obesity, lack of sleep, and stress overload can all compromise immune function and increase an individual's susceptibility to COVID-19 infection. True. Number 10, smoking, alcohol consumption, and a low intake of greens can all impair the function of our natural killer cells. True. Number 11, consuming 1 to 2 cups of berries, cherries, or apples a day will not decrease the levels of inflammation in the body. That's false. Number 12, hot treatments followed by brief cold stimulate the activity of immune cells such as natural killer cells, monocytes, and lymphocytes. That is true. Number 13, beef, milk, cheese, pork, egg yolks, and poultry contain significant amounts of arachidonic acid, which is linked to higher level of inflammation in the body. That's true. Number 14, zinc, vitamin C, curcumin, vitamin D, and ivermectin have all been shown in clinical studies to improve the health outcomes of individuals with COVID-19 infection. That is true. Number 15, vitamin D deficiency does not suppress or dysregulate immunity. That's false. Number 16, early treatment studies with vitamin D in COVID-19 patients have been shown to reduce mortality rates by 78%. True. Number 17, vitamin C improves the function of natural killer cells, macrophage T cells, and neutrophils, which contain high levels of vitamin C. That is true. Number 18, when ivermectin is used as a prophylaxis or prevention for COVID-19, it has been demonstrated in 23 studies to decrease the risk of death or mortality by 96%. That is true. Number 19, pistachio nuts contain the highest amount of melatonin when compared to 13 other foods known to contain melatonin. That is true. And number 20, the eye mask prevention protocol includes ivermectin, vitamin D3, zinc, vitamin C, quercetin, and curcumin. That is false. So thank you for taking the quiz with us. Please keep a tally of your answers to be submitted at the end of the sessions to be able to receive your certificate. And again, if you have any questions or challenges to the answers to the quiz, put them in the chat and they'll be explained next week. Thank you so much.
Why, thank you, Roslyn. I'm going to confess. Okay, here's the question and answer period. All right, so you're asked to put your questions in the chat, and we are glad to facilitate the answers to your questions. All right. While we are doing that, I'm going to maximize the moment, and we're looking carefully at the chat to see if there are any questions that are there. And of course, if you don't get them in just now, please put them in the chat. We're going to be so glad to do our best to give you the answers based on the presentations that Dr. Gibbons has been giving. All right.
Okay, good morning, everyone. These questions are based on the questions that were presented in last week's presentation. The questions to you, Dr. Gibbons. Will you be providing this PowerPoint presentation via email?
I guess the question relates to individuals who got in a little late and didn't have ability to actually, see all the answers, the questions and answers. So if you go to Somerset SDA Church in YouTube, you will be able to see a replay. Okay, so you can get anything that you have missed.
Thank you, Dr. Gibbons. The next question. Can you advise the email address given one more time?
Okay, the email address is info@somersetSDAchurch.org. Again, info@somersetSDAchurch.org.
Thank you, Dr. Gibbons. Okay, next question. Are there contraindications for the use of hydrotherapy or hot fermentation?
Yes, there are contraindications. We actually did a series in the past that looked at the whole question of hydrotherapy. And of course, people that are very old or very young don't tolerate extremes in temperature. People who have problems with sensitivity, like diabetics, they may not be able to sense pain and have poor circulation. So the temperature has to be adjusted accordingly. So these are things that are important. And so you want to, before you rush ahead and do some of those things, just make sure you, get in contact with me or look at some of our previous talks where we talk about how to do just that.
Okay, our next question is budesonide given only as an early intervention for COVID?
It's given as an outpatient sort of treatment. Okay.
Okay, and one question says, can you tell me where I can get this data?
Okay, if you want to know where we can get, because some of the slides, we may not have had all of the information. So what I did is I put down a list, and maybe someone could type it in. Now, there are three areas, three places you can go. One of them, let me see, I just got it. FLCCC.net. That's the frontline group of, these are medical professionals who have been, clinicians actually been treating people since the beginning of COVID-19. I spoke about them last week. And if you go to that website, it has probably the answers to all the questions you might have, or links where you can find that information. Another one that has just the research, all the researchers with all of the studies that were conducted, and where it presents the conclusions like I showed on a graph, where you see the different studies and the benefit and the amounts. Well, if you actually go to the site I'm going to give you, they give you the link right back to the original study. So you can go right back to the people who actually did the study. So you can see for yourself if you want to go that far. The link is C19early.com. C19early.com. And at the top, you will see ivermectin, you see vitamin D, you see a whole number of therapeutic options that they have looked at, and they're presenting the scientific support for those particular therapies. I'll give you one other link, and that link is relative to actually the vaccines. Sometimes we hear that they are, there are no potential issues and nothing happens. Well, there is a database that people can record. It's after the effect, any signs or symptoms, what happened to people after. And this website gives you a review of what's really going on from the data submitted. And that one is open. There's OPENVAERS.com. OPENVAERS.com. They give you a clear picture of what are the side effects that people are reporting, people who have passed after they had taken the vaccine, a whole lot of things that are put in a very simple way for you to see the results for yourself.
Okay, thank you. Our next question. Is it recommended to take ivermectin as a preventative measure against COVID-19?
What the health professionals that are, basically doing this on a day-to-day basis, their suggestion is you can have it sort of like on the side. If you start experiencing symptoms, you can take it. My basic advice would be, first of all, to start with the lifestyle suggestions that I shared already, the things that help to boost the immune system, increase those, the diet, and the things that are counterproductive. You want to avoid those things, okay? So that's the whole idea. That's the first line of defense. Follow the NEWSTART principles, lifestyle, water, exercise, etc. Even the contrast showers, hot and cold contrast showers, lots of the fruits and the vegetables we talked about. So that's the first level, getting out in the exercise, getting the sunlight. The second level is the vitamin C, the vitamin D, the quercetin, and I provided all of that. So you can do all of that. And the third line would be like ivermectin. You follow me? So first thing, change your lifestyle. Second thing, add the supplements that you can do. In most cases, you should be fine with that. But if you're in a situation where you're exposed to a lot of people who may have the infection, or you may be going and traveling and other things like that, then add the ivermectin on top of that. Because ultimately, lifestyle is the key factor. And if our immune system is functioning well, our bodies are able to defend us against COVID-19 and any most other problems for that matter. So start with the lifestyle, get the supplements, and then the ivermectin.
Okay, next question. Why has ivermectin not been approved by the FDA?
Okay, this is sort of a long question, long answer in reality. So now last week I shared the data, and based on what I shared, it should be passed. In fact, there have been a number of comprehensive reviews. One was a meta-analysis, and that's basically the best available data when we make decisions in terms of whether we go ahead with a therapy. That's the highest level. You've got multiple studies, and there are certain strict criteria as to why they're included. And then the analysis actually deals with some of the weaknesses that may be in one or another. And so when you have all of them together, following its systematic type of analysis that's not based on, I feel, I think, I believe, but it's based solely on what the data is saying and the strengths and the weaknesses of how it was designed. And so based on that, the results we reported were very effective. So the question is, why have they not? So let's just look at it this way. First of all, should I do that? What I put down here was actually more of what I was sharing. There were a number of, actually one of the studies was conducted by Dr. Hill. He compiled data for the World Health Organization. He was actually sequestered, so to speak, to look at the information, and his conclusions were that it was very good. And so with all of that, why would they say that they would not recommend using it? In fact, one of their comments, I just went on the website just a few days ago, and basically what they said on one of their statements was, we haven't even reviewed the data on ivermectin. Yet they were making a conclusion that we should not use it, even though they never reviewed the data. Now, that doesn't make, that's not a good way, from my perspective, to actually, what you actually do is review the data, and then you make your conclusions based on the data. Does that make sense, Ms. Sister Swan? Yeah, you look at the data, and you evaluate the data, and then you make your recommendations based on your findings. That makes sense. But they conclude they never even looked at it. So why didn't they look at it? Well, it's from my perspective and the perspective of many others, they knew what the conclusions were, and they were not willing to go with advising people to utilize it. And there's a number of things that we could say about that, but I'm not going to go down that road. But it's obvious from my perspective and in the perspective of any thinking person, you evaluate the information and then you make recommendations both based on that. And they did not do that. They did not evaluate it, but they made a recommendation not to use it. They talked about overdosing. Yes, you can overdose on anything. They talked about possible interactions. Yes, there are interactions with a lot of things, but the overwhelming evidence is in favor of use of ivermectin, very safe. And I'll leave it at that for now.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Gibbons. And the next and final question, if ivermectin has been used in Brazil, why are there still problematic numbers of COVID in Brazil?
Well, Brazil, like a number of other countries, different areas of the country, basically do their own thing. And in one example, there was a time where there was a leader who was sort of in place. And what he was doing, he saw the data on ivermectin, so he decided to roll it out. And so the levels decreased significantly. While he was taken out of office and someone else came in. And this new person decided, I don't want to do this. I'm just gonna, I'm going with the vaccines and all of that there. And the death rate started to come back up. So what we're seeing here is the results of individuals doing different things, different states, one program, another state, another. But what we see consistently across the world, in India, in Mexico, a number of these countries, when they started to implement the use of ivermectin, the death rate and everything plummeted. And I showed you a graph of one of Mexico last week, where you saw all the other states that was climbing, and this one state that was using the ivermectin was flatlining, so it wasn't moving at all. So that's a basic reasoning why you just have different groups who are deciding to do different things and not actually following what the science shows.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gibbons.
And thank you, Razia Swan. Let's put our hands together for Razia Swan, who gives us our Q&A, and Rosalind Mingo with those quiz questions. I hope you got them all right. Remember, we're going to make sure, and we're depending on the merit system as you give those answers in. Any other questions, please put them in the chat, and we are going to do our very best to get back to you with those answers. Well, it's my responsibility, especially for those of you who may be joining us for the very first time. We thank you and we welcome you. Let me quickly introduce to you our presenter today. He is none other than Dr. Leonard Gibbons, a lifestyle intervention specialist. He is a graduate of Loma Linda University with an MPH and Dr. PH. That's big stuff. He's also a graduate of several other institutions, Oakwood University, Australian College for Phytotherapy, Banning School of Massage, and Uchee Pines Institute. Dr. Gibbons formerly was the wellness coordinator for the Bermuda Hospitals Board and the health promotion coordinator for the Bermuda Government Department of Health. Dr. Leonard Gibbons is currently the Health Ministries Director for the Bermuda Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, and he also works at the Bermuda Wellness Outreach Center as a lifestyle intervention specialist. Dr. Gibbons focuses on lifestyle medicine while working with patients and clients in conjunction with their primary care physicians. He is known for providing wellness education and lifestyle change programs for churches, businesses, and other organizations and the general public, always using his expertise in public health, nutrition, dietetics, herbal medicine, alcohol and drug counseling, massage therapy, hydrotherapy, public speaking, and lifestyle medicine, using God's 8 natural remedies as a framework for health and healing. Dr. Gibbons is married to Dr. Rosamond Williams Gibbons, a career educator working in the Bermuda government school system, who is also a graduate of Global International Health from Loma Linda University. These two met at Oakwood and were there for some 6 to 7 years prior to meeting. The Gibbons family are blessed to have 2 children, Ryan and Lindsay, now young adults pursuing their own passion of choice after accompanying their parents during years of volunteering their labors in the community. Apart from family, Dr. Gibbons enjoys reading, hiking, skating, and making things with his hands. Today's presentation by Dr. Gibbons, Blocking the Biology That Fuels Cancer. At this time, we present to you Dr. Leonard Gibbons.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I trust you had a good week. I trust you've made some adjustments in your lifestyle. We're talking about how lifestyle practices that you can do, the NEWSTART principles, and if you are making some changes and you're experiencing the benefits, feel free to share it with us, and then we can share it with others. Okay, so today we're going to talk about blocking the biology that fuels cancer. Now you may ask yourself, what am I talking about, the biology that fuels cancer? Well, I like to look at it this way. There are, let's look at a fire as an example. You know, if you really want to get a fire going, there are certain elements that you need. Of course, you need something that will burn. If you had, and of course, you need some way of lighting the fire. And if you add gas to the situation, so you have dry wood, you have gas, you have a flint, or you have a match, all of them, you've got the oxygen in the air. So all of these factors go together so that you can end up with a fire. Well, cancer itself needs fuel. It needs factors that come together that make it succeed. Just like the laws of health that govern health and healing, there are laws that govern disease. So what are those principal drivers? And when we say biology, basically we can look at the blood and we can see markers. We can see chemical levels that tell us these drivers are high. And when those drivers are high, then we know that it's going to what? Propel that growth process, that development. And so the whole idea is to identify what they are and then to what? To counteract them. And because these biological drivers can be controlled, that is, we can do things to adjust how they impact on our bodies, then there is something we can do to help the body heal itself from cancer. So we're going to take a look at that. But before then, what is cancer? Now, cancer is a disease in which some of the body's cells grow uncontrollably and spread to other parts of the body. So it's not an isolated group of rogue cells waiting passively to be annihilated by a wonder drug. In fact, it is caused by lifestyle factors and genetic and molecular glitches. And so we're gonna take a look at it. Now, of course, one of the key factors is it preventable? Now, if it does have biological drivers and we can control how they're expressed, then there's probably something we can do about it. But just looking at this slide, this looks at this question of prevention. And as you can see here, cancer incidence are relative to different habits. And we look at genetics between 5 to 10%. You got pollution, you got infection, obesity, diet, tobacco. So you see there are a number of lifestyle factors that are controllable. And just about everything there we can control. Now, the genes, you cannot control the genes you have, but there's good news, you can control how that gene is expressed. By our lifestyle choices, those factors that impact on the biology of cancer, you can turn off bad genes and turn on good genes. So even if you have this genetic inheritance, this weakness that has been passed on, more than likely over the generations because of personal choices of your family and their family, your parents, grandparents, great-parents, grandparents, etc. These weaknesses have been passed on, but you are not limited by them. You can make choices to turn off the bad, turn on the good. So this is good news. So lifestyle definitely has a place. We're not just left to say, well, okay, let me just get chemo, let me get radiation, and let me get surgery. There's nothing else I can do. Diet doesn't matter. Exercise doesn't matter. Well, we're going to discover today that there are things that matter. Not only do they matter, they work. So stay with us. Now, conventional cancer therapies have some major deficiencies. Now, and the reasons are this. A tumor is merely the most obvious symptom of an altered, unbalanced system. So the system is unbalanced to start from, and we sort of set the foundation for that last week when we talked about COVID-19 and dysfunctional immune system. Well, there is a dysfunctional, unbalanced internal body biology, chemistry that is driving this process where you have this growth, this abnormal growth. Just think of it this way. The body is always trying to heal itself. So it doesn't just happen overnight. This process of growth happened over years. Could be 10, 20, 30, 40 years. But all along the process, the body has been trying to do what? Bring about healing. But because of the choices we have been making, it has made that process difficult. And so the body, in its attempt, has attempted to wall off this abnormal growth of cells that it was not able to get rid of. And we're going to talk about why it was unable to and what we can do about it. So this is where we're at. So it's a system. It's not just one collection of cells that we need to target and to destroy. We need to bring the whole system back in balance. Now, that's why both the new targeted therapies, there are new ones on the market, and the older weapons, the ones are surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy. They often fail to prevent the spread or recurrence of the disease. They don't pick up renegade cancer cells, and one of them is what we call stem cells. Often what happens is the chemotherapy or what have you just actually shrinks that cancer cell down. But what happens in a number of cases, it comes right back. And one of the reasons is some of the cancer chemo drugs don't specifically target the stem cells. And from the stem cells, you get families. It's like the root that proliferates or causes more cells to grow. So you're killing all the daughter cells, and then the one that produces the the cells from the beginning escapes, and then it comes back. Okay, so it doesn't pick up all of these cancer cells. It doesn't strengthen the body's biological balance, and we're going to talk about those components. It doesn't reach all the underlying molecular accidents that initiate the cancer in the first place. All right, and it doesn't include the NEWSTART whole person solution. So they don't tend to look at it from a lifestyle perspective. An oncologist is more focused on those therapies, it's chemo, it's radiation, it's surgery, and that's it. But we need to, have more of a holistic perspective. And we will see that when we do, outcomes are better. Now, even if the original tumor is gone, the biology imbalance created is left, and tumor cells, use the body's system to actually do what it wants to do. So what I want to show you right now is actually a compilation of studies that look at the survival rate of individuals with major cancers and the impact of chemotherapy. It's looking at a 5-year survival rate, absolute survival rate. And the reason I'm going to share this is to give you some sense that by itself, just chemotherapy is not a magic bullet by no stretch of the imagination. So let's take a look at this compilations of looking at 5-year survival. So right at the top, you see study reports 5-year survival for most cancers using chemotherapy. And the survival rate was listed as 2.1%. Now, 2.1% is not a very good report. Now, I highlighted a couple just to give you some sense. If you look on the presentation, you see curly, it's highlighted. And then you see the number of cases if you go down, and it's 13,936. Now, these are numbers of people who had cancer. They were older than 20 years of age. Now, the question is, based on these individuals taken from a number of hospitals from around the world, how many of those individuals survived, were alive 5 years later? And if you look across to the next column, you see 146. So what that means is nearly all of these individuals have passed. Even though they experienced, they were given chemotherapy as a treatment, only 1% of them were alive 5 years. Lung cancer, you see 20,741, 410 were alive, 2%. Breast cancer, 31,133, 446. So 1.4%. So you see the low rates of survival by just focusing on one mode of treatment. The next page over, you see prostate cancer. And this is a quite common cancer. Sorry about that. And you can see in this particular example, all the patients had died after 5 years of chemotherapy, and this is 23,242 cases. Now, there are a few forms of cancer where there are really some significant successes. And you see in the terms of testes right on the prostate, actually you will see a 37.7%. And when we look at Hodgkin's disease, 40%, and non-Hodgkin's, 10.5%. These are cancers that are not very huge numbers of people, but they are cancers that seem to benefit. Chemotherapy can shrink tumors down, relieve pressure, but long-term survival is not necessarily present there. All right, so this basically says to me, we got to look for other things. We cannot rely on this one form of therapy. The results are not very promising. 5-year survival, especially for people who have had advanced cancers. You know, it's metastasized from the original, it's in other parts of the body. So this is what we're looking at. So what do? Well, I would like to consider that we look at what we call these biological factors that fuel cancer. And number one is excessive blood clotting. Number two, elevated blood sugar levels. So basically, if one was to look at it from a holistic standpoint, we would want to know, is the blood more likely to clot? And there are biochemical tests you can look at that can demonstrate whether, you know, the clotting mechanism is not where it should be. Elevated blood sugar is something most of us are familiar with, and individuals that actually have higher blood sugar levels don't do well as a result of, you know, treatment. So if we lower the blood sugar levels, we end up seeing better outcomes. So that's just one example. Chronic inflammation, and we talked about that when we talked about COVID-19. Low levels of vitamin D, and the next is excessive free radical reactions. All right. Next is compromised immunity. Estrogen dominance, that means too much estrogen, a particular type of hormone in the body, and not enough progesterone, just is unbalanced. And the last is chronic stress overload. All of these are drivers of cancer. And if you look at the research literature, what they demonstrate is people who have these don't do well in terms of cancer outcomes. So it's important to address these lifestyle related factors. Now, we're not going to take a look at all of them. I'm just going to focus on 3 for today to illustrate this important factor. So obviously, if you're someone you know that has cancer and you're wanting to help them from a more natural lifestyle factor, you know, in terms of their sugar, their levels of vitamin D, their stress level, you know, their immunity level. And so all of these things are important to look at and address to increase the likelihood that people will do well. Now, the question you may ask, if all of this is true, is there evidence to support that? Are there groups of or hospitals, for that matter, or clinicians that use this as a framework of addressing their patients? And what is the outcome of an integrated approach where they address all of these biological factors? And one of them is actually the Block Center for Integrated Cancer Care. Now, Block Center is, they utilize a number of lifestyle-related therapies, and they look at all of these inflammatory processes. They do use a type of chemotherapy which is not used very much in our standard hospitals. I don't have time to talk a lot about it, but just to give you a little sense, it's given in very minute dosages and based on your biology. In other words, there are times in the day when chemotherapy is less harmful to the body and is more helpful. we tend to do, if someone is getting chemotherapy, they schedule a time and they go in at that time and they get everything at that time. But biology doesn't work that way. There are certain times. So they would use a device that only emits a certain amount at a certain time. And it's on this biologic clock. Now we have a 24-hour cycles. We call it the circadian rhythms that control everything in our bodies. And so when we do things based on our biological rhythms, the outcomes are better. And when we don't follow it, the outcomes are not as good. So let's just look at the survival. And they compared their outcome with other hospitals, Texas hospitals, Louisiana, Munich, and then Block Center. And as you can look at the survival, and I'll give you one example, Texas, we can look at that. You see bone cancer on the far left, 19% survival. At the Block Center, 40% survival. That's a big difference. Bone cancer, lung cancer, 14% survival, 43% survival. Liver cancer, 10%, 23%. So this is just one example demonstrating that when we use a comprehensive, holistic approach, diet, exercise, stress management, supplements, etc., we see these significant benefits. And in fact, the individuals in the Block Center tend to be sicker. For some reason, people don't tend to go there when they've tried other places and nothing seems to work. And so this is a center in the United States of America. And so because they have the data and they've looked at that, so that's why I'm presenting it from their perspective here. Another is actually a nutritional group, Jeannie M. Wallace, PhD. And this is just an example, and I just want to look. This is us cases. And this is, let's just look at survival ovarian cancer. I'm just going to look at a couple. Right at the top, patient, 55 years of age, stage 4 ovarian cancer. So this is advanced cancer. And this individual who was treated with just the holistic lifestyle piece, no chemo. This is what they were given, total lifestyle. 14 years, greater than 14 years and 2 months, they were still alive. Stage 3C, 11 years, 8 months, still alive. 9 years, 11 months, still alive. 9 years, 2 months, still alive. 7 years, 10 months, still alive. And we were looking at, remember, with the chemotherapy approach, the average outcome within 5 years, most people had passed. And this example here in the colon cancer, same type of scenario. Now, pancreatic cancer is not a cancer that people do very well at all. Most people do not survive within a couple of years. And so what it demonstrates here is that individuals, when we look at the total person, when we integrate all of those pieces and look at the things that drive cancer and we adjust the lifestyle to address those, we can see far better outcomes. All right, now, cancer cells need a blood supply to survive. Now, this is important. All of us have cancer cells. They cannot grow beyond the size of the tip of a pen without a blood supply. So what we want to do is how can we stop the body, the cancer cell from secreting these factors? And you can see the small tumor on the left. And then you see something sprouting down, as it were. These are angiogenic growth factors. So growth factors come out from the cancer cells and they go down into the bloodstream, and then you have this growth. And if they don't have a blood supply, they can't grow. And they can't grow, they can take your life. So the thing is, we want to know what are those things that cause it to grow, that inspire its growth, and what are the things we can do to prevent that from happening. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. Now, cancer cells release chemicals, I said that already, to sprout into the tumors and grow. However, plants contain many powerful chemicals that block these growth factors, the biology that fuels cancer. So that's what we're going to be talking about. How do we block it so that it doesn't grow? And that's important to know. So let's look at chronic inflammation. It's the fire within, okay? And this is that low grade inflammation. Is just smoldering for years within us. It's fuel. Just as much as it's a fuel as it relates to COVID-19, it's a fuel source as it relates to cancer. So anything, and let's talk about it. Now, this graph, I think I shared it before. If I didn't, you didn't see it. Inflammation drives just about every health issue you can think of, from Alzheimer's to arthritis to infection to diabetes, pulmonary disease, colitis, and cancer. So all of them are fueled by inflammation, a biological driver. All right, so in any of these issues, if you have any of them, if you decrease inflammation, you will increase the chances, the likelihood that you will do much better. So that's good news. And these are drivers of inflammation. These are things that drive inflammation. It's alcoholic beverages, it's environmental pollutants, it's ultraviolet radiation, it's viruses, it's stress, it's food factors, grilled and fried foods, red meats and poultry, processed meats, fast foods, refined foods, and refined oils all increase inflammation in your body. The pollutants that are coming out from the cars, from the industries, obesity, being inactive, all of that fuels inflammation. Just being overweight elevates the level of a chemical called C-reactive protein. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. Stress. So now some of these factors, you see an asterisk, looks like a little star beside it. And I put that there because that not only is related to inflammation, this is basically all of this, is also related to the second fuel source we're going to talk about, and that is free radical reactions. And we'll get to that. But, you know, what drives inflammation often drives free radical reactions. And we'll talk about free radicals as we go along. Inflammation. You smash your finger, it's red, it's hot, it's swelling, it's inflamed. That's inflammation. You can have inflammation in your body that's not represented by this pain and swelling, at least you don't understand it. But in the concept of arthritis, yes, that inflammation is going on. You can sense that. Pain, inflammation, okay? So inflammatory processes. So let's, of course, UV radiation from the sun, excessive exposure, cigarette smoke, alcoholic consumption, excess body weight, highly processed fast type foods, all drive up inflammation. Now, this is looking at some outcome. This is patient survival. Now, as you can see at the beginning, at 0, 100% of the individuals were alive. Then you can see after 200 days, what do you see here? If you look at those that had low levels of inflammation, and one of the key markers is low levels of a protein called C-reactive protein. Low levels, and you could see 60%. Right? Still alive. How many were alive that had high levels of inflammation? 20%. And you can see it going right along out to 1,000 days. And those that had low inflammation, you see the 40% still doing well. So inflammation matters. A good marker is C-reactive protein. It's a critical one, an important one. And if you could get someone to do that blood test, it would give you a clear indication if you are someone who has cancer, where your numbers are. And we're going to talk about what you can do about it. Now, what do we know is when people's level of C-reactive protein are high and they get chemotherapy, they are more toxic, increased risk of severe low blood counts during chemotherapy. So if the C-reactive protein levels are high and you get chemotherapy on top of that, it's fuel. It's going to increase the likelihood that individuals will not do well. Cachexia or wasting syndrome, people lose a lot of weight. That's not primarily due to the fact that the cancer is eating up all the food. They need to pack on the calories and, consume lots of ice cream and anything that's high in calories to prevent them from going through that extreme weight loss. Actually, that's counterproductive. That will actually make it worse. One of the reasons why they go through this experience of significant quick weight loss is because the levels of C-reactive protein are high. You bring those levels down, and then you prevent that wasting syndrome. Greater fatigue, increased fatigue, poor quality of life, poor appetite. You can see all of these are related to this high level of inflammation. And if we're not addressing the things that are fueling inflammation, or in fact, the inflammation itself that was underneath in those individuals getting the cancer progressing in the first place, and all we're doing is adding chemotherapy, it's adding fuel to the fire. And this is probably one of the reasons many do not do well. So we want to address inflammation. So this is critical. So now high CRP, C-reactive protein levels, are indicators of reduced long-term survival. So CRP levels are elevated, you're not likely to survive. That's the facts that we're seeing. Now, in patients with the following cancer, independent of race, tumor stage, body mass, doesn't matter, any of those things, you control any of all of them, they still don't do well. So you can see there, the breast cancer, the colon, the ovarian, the lung, the oral cancer, pancreatic cancer. Also heart attacks and strokes, 3 to 10 times higher risk if you have problems. And diabetes, 4 times the risk of developing type 2 diabetes just by having what? Higher levels of C-reactive protein. So what are the levels? And you can see right here, you can see the levels. Ideal levels, you can see here, less than 0.5 to 1, safe, and you can see from there on out. So this is a clear marker. You want to write it down, get this information, be clear. In fact, any health issues you have, generally they do not do this test unless it's for a specific condition. But if you can get this test, it'll give you a clear picture of what's going on, how much inflammation you're having. Are you heading towards, cancer? Or are you creating the fuel that could cause it to grow and metastasize and create havoc in your body? So C-reactive protein is a care factor. So inflammation, let's just look at the bottom where the bar is. You see the bar where it's white, and to the left, you see normal cells. And then you see transformation. So this is the first stage. And at the top of that, you say DNA damage, right? Oncogenesis, right? This is all about the beginning stages. So Your body, normally, if everything is balanced, you get this abnormal cell and the body fixes it. It can't fix it, it kills it, right? But what's happening is this transformation. And then the next stage, it's surviving. Then it's proliferating, goes from 1 to 2 to 4 to 4. Then it invades the tissues, right? And then it grows. And now it's this huge thing. And it metastasizes. It goes to other parts of the body. And then the outcome is not very good. So you can see from 10 to 20 years, and then from on there. So the important thing is, as far as possible, make all those adjustments that we can make earlier on in the process so it does not develop alone. Don't worry about all the figures up the top there and all of that. We'll get back to one of them, and that is NF-kB. We'll look at that a little later. But bear in mind, inflammation drives every stage of cancer development, from transformation to survival to proliferation to invasion to angiogenesis and to metastasis, where it goes all through the body. Inflammation is a driver in all of those processes. So if we can dampen inflammation, dampen this NF-kB is actually the master switch. Cancer switch turns on all stages. And we're going to talk about some things that shut it down. And you want to pay special attention to that. And definitely it's going to be on your quiz for next week. So bear in mind what we're talking about there. And also IGF, C-reactive protein. Okay, that's going to be on your quiz. So telling you two things, they're going to be on the quiz next week. All right, so let's look at anti-inflammatory rich fruits and vegetables. And we talked about this last week, but I'm going to just emphasize it a little bit more today. So 1 to 2 cups a day of these vegetables: artichoke, spinach, broccoli, onions, sweet potatoes, cucumbers, tomatoes, zucchini, and parsley. These are powerful anti-inflammatory rich foods. And I think broccoli sprouts is way up there. All right, so 1 to 2 cups a day, and I would push for 2 cups a day. You've been told you have cancer, you know someone who has cancer, jump right on it. Cook it if it must be cooked. Put it in a blender. Steam it, lightly steam. That's fine for most of these things. Have some things raw, have some things cooked. There are benefits to both. And then you see here, the antioxidant rich fruit. You see the apples and the cranberries and the apricots and the prunes and the berries and the raspberries and the red grapes, the cantaloupes, the strawberries, etc. 1 to 2 cups a day, and I would push for the 2. So we're looking at 4 cups worth, a minimum of fruits and vegetables for anti-inflammatory, so they will suppress this inflammatory process. What about herbs? The best source of anti-inflammatory compounds are in the whole leaf or the underground form. And I've just listed several here. You've got basil, bay leaf, oregano, rosemary, ginger, sage, mint, thyme, and turmeric. Sometimes what I would do, I would put them all in a blender as a part of a smoothie. So you have a smoothie and you have your berries in there, and you throw some mint, you throw some rosemary, you throw some oregano, you throw some ginger and turmeric. You got me? Put these pieces together. This is a powerful mixture of phytochemical rich herbs and plants to dampen inflammation, which inspires cancer growth and development across the board. Now, this is looking at supplements. So we talked about the food. Now we're going to talk a little bit about supplements. I'm not going to go into detail with all the months of all the different supplements. If you have issues, you know someone who has issues, just send me a message contact me and I'll help you through that process. So the top anti-inflammatory rich herbs, boswellia. Right at the top, you see boswellia? And what's boswellia? Boswellia is frankincense. Frankincense in the Bible is the resin from this tree. It has powerful inflammatory. Now, COX, COX, and LOX. These are inflammatory markers, okay? So boswellia addresses one of them. LOX, bromelain, that's from the pineapple stem. They could buy that, and curcumin blocks both. So curcumin is very important, and it's going to be on your test next week. Tart cherry concentrate. Tart cherries are very potent. They are tart, but they are definitely will suppress inflammation. You can buy it as a concentrate, and you can add that to your smoothie. If you can't get the fresh tart cherries. Most of the ones we have here, I don't think they're the tart. They're the sweeter variety. But the tart has the highest level of these anti-inflammatory compounds. So getting tart cherry concentrate, add that to the smoothie, along with all the other things we've been talking about, and you have a concoction that is potently anti-inflammatory. Stinging nettle leaf is also very potent anti-inflammatory. The COX-2 inhibitor, resveratrol, is another. And you see there the target range for your C-reactive protein. See that number right there, less than 1. Okay, so this is where we want to go. So if you have the test and you see where your numbers are, and we showed you where the numbers were. And so what typically we would do a combination of things. So boswellia and bromelain and curcumin and ginger and quercetin. And the more of those added together, that will give you the best possible outcome. Alpha lipoic acid. So all of these are anti-inflammatory related supplements. So inflammation is number 1. Number 2 is free radicals. Now, I like to look at free radicals as internal rusting, right? It's a free radical reaction that can damage the DNA, your genetic, blueprint, the DNA. It can promote cancer. It can accelerate aging. Look at our tomato. It's a ripe tomato. When you see it decaying, then you see it decay. This is an oxidative process. The cells, very similar. Normal cells, attack cells, oxidize stress. There are compounds we call electrons. And electrons like to travel in pairs, like a relationship, husband and wife working together harmoniously. Well, what happens in free radical reactions, one of them are lost. And the action of that there, and then there's abnormal, unbalanced molecule tries to get itself balanced again. So it steals from other cells, then that steal from steal. And so this whole process results in damage and rusting and accelerated aging and wrinkles and cancer and you name it. So what we need is what we would call an antioxidant. And what the antioxidant does, it donates its electrons to rebalance this union of this paired electron. It's an object lesson, I think, that we're unbalanced. And when we have Christ in our lives, he brings that balance back. And so think about it. One single puff, you can see how many billions of free radicals are created by just breathing in one puff of cigarette smoke. So it's important to realize the toxic effect of some of these processes or elements that we have. And so a number of the same things that boost the inflammation, boost the excessive free radical reaction. So antioxidants slow down the aging process, block the angiogenesis, the growth process, prevent cellular damage that can lead to cancer and many other diseases. So we want antioxidants. Now, this is important. Your average plant's antioxidant is 1,157 micromoles. Just for our purposes, let's look at it as points. 1,157 points. That's antioxidant potential. The average antioxidant content of animal products is 18. So think about it. 18 versus 1,157, 64 times more potent than animal products in quenching free radical reactions. So what does that mean? That means in very real terms, animal products, you want to cut them down, you want to cut them out, especially if you had some cancer, fast growing, or what have you. Your antioxidant capacity will be greatly compromised by taking in animal-based products. Now, we're going to show you some studies that actually confirm this fact. Now, let's just take a look at a couple of things, antioxidant-rich foods. Oregano. The antioxidant capacity of oregano is more than 40 times the level of an apple, 10 times the level of an orange, and 4 times the level of blueberries. So oregano is really a powerful antioxidant. And so the whole leaf underground version had the highest antioxidant power. So I don't know, I've never put oregano in a smoothie, but listen, if you are challenged, I just pull out the stuff, take a handful, go to the, buy some oregano, Of course, I talked already about some other anti-inflammatory, but these are antioxidant rich, right? So oregano is very potent, rich antioxidant, 40 times the level of an apple. So that's powerful. All right, so let's take these things. So these are high ORAC, and this is ORAC refers to its ability to quench these free radicals, to slow them down, to see them there. Your ginger, your turmeric, your parsley, your basil, your rosemary, your sage, your cumin, all of these foods, we have these herbs are potent antioxidants. So what we want to do is combine the two, the antioxidant rich, the anti-inflammatory rich, bring them all together, right? Put them in smoothies, put them in your vegetables. You're cooking up, you're steaming vegetables, you chop up the fresh herbs and put that in your veggie burgers or loaves. It gives it that unique taste. That's that fresh taste from the fresh herb. So take advantage of all of these things and put them all together to make this mixture that will fight against all of these, the cancers. And here are some supplements, and I actually put the actual amounts. Grape seed extract, so the extract from the grape seed. 50 to 150, you see there, alpha-lipoic acid, 300 to 800, vitamin C, with citrus bioflavonoids. That's sort of in the rind of the, the white portion of the fruit, like the orange has bioflavonoids in it. And so you got the vitamin C in the orange itself. We've got aged garlic extract in this example, and then lycopene, which actually comes from tomato. And you can get more just by having actually cooked tomato. You absorb far more lycopene than you will from your fresh tomato. Okay, so these are examples of some potent antioxidant-rich supplements. The third we're going to talk about is estrogen. Estrogen dominating. That is more estrogen than you should have. So, and you can see a list of this, right? Is breast cancer, is ovarian cancer, and uterine cancer, and colorectal cancer. Fueling these cancer, these are the estrogen is a growth promoter. You see this impact on these types of cancers. So these specific cancers tend to be more related to this excess estrogen. So that's another piece that should be considered in these particular cancers. Now, this graph here gives you a picture of agents on the left going down and the rationale for using them and their references. And so you have this, and these are protective factors. And there's something we've seen before, curcumin, right? We've seen that already. DIM, cruciferar, that we've seen that's in your cruciferous vegetables, or we talked about one of those, and that was broccoli. Broccoli and Brussels sprouts and kale are all example of vegetables from the cruciferous family. And you've got flaxseed meal, and here is flaxseed coming in, and we're going to see a little bit more about that. And at the bottom, you see a list of what are those, where do you get these? Glucarate is found naturally in the body and in oranges, grapefruits. And you see DIM, cruciferar, and the examples of that. So if we address all these factors, dietary estrogens right at the top, that comes from a lot of processed chemically raised animals. So higher levels of estrogens and chemicals in factory farming. So you want to stay away from these things. Other chemicals in the air, xenoestrogens, and these can be in the furniture, pollutants, chemicals that are used. We'll look a little bit at some of those. They are estrogen-like, right? And they throw the body system off. And so we don't want to consume these things. And here are a list of some of them. Tap water, the US tap water, pesticides, you can see that, canned foods, some of the chemicals coming from the food, dental sealants, air fresheners, perfumes, cosmetics, hair dye, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. More challenging your condition, the more you want to avoid these things. You're in serious health issues, you want to avoid as many of those things that will cause your body to what? Create these estrogens which promote the growth of cells. Normal cells and abnormal cells, excess estrogen. That's what it can do. All right, so what did you do? You want to drop, depress that, and there are some natural things we can do, right? Decrease stress, melatonin levels. We talked about that last week. Vitamin D levels, right? Things to avoid. So all of this, alcohol, definitely, right? So all of these things are important to put in this whole list. And we're looking at how do we mitigate what we're dealing with this cancer or what have you, and how do we, cortisol, you see there, let's look at stress, increases this aromatase, which is all involved with this cancerous growth, with the estrogens. So anything that would inhibit this as aromatase will be our benefit. So cortisol goes up if we're stressed. So that's one of the the biological chemicals that we can analyze, and we can see whether this is happening. And there are things we can do, of course, to mitigate them. All right, now prostate cancer is one of those, right? And gene expression. And this particular study was done by Dr. Dean Ornish. And what he took a man who had prostate cancer. Men with prostate cancer, they not electing to have treatment. They had a lower stage. They enrolled. They compared the gene expression after 3 months on the diet, and it was a whole plant food diet that they gave them. They also gave them soy isolates, compounds. Now, so what we saw here is the expression of 500 plus genes change. The cancer genes, oncogenes, were downregulated, so that we were shut off. So the bad genes were shut off, and the good genes were shut off, and they were turned on, rather. And this is good news, just by changing the diet. Now, I got a picture of a pomegranate there, and we're going to talk about why that is there on another slide. But total change, and there were several things they changed. They were on a stress management program, group support, plant-based diet, and exercise. Those are and some supplements, natural supplements. All were a part of this comprehensive program. Now, total of 93 patients, and you can see the PSA level, 4 to 10, and Gleason score, cancer score, less than 7, lifestyle, plus a vegan diet, and or no change, meat-based diet, group for a period of 1 year. And none of the vegetarians, but 6 of the meat group underwent conventional treatment due to an increase in PSA levels and all of that. So this basically showing us, on one lifestyle change, decreased, maintaining a diet high in animal products, high in pro-oxidant chemicals actually resulted in growth and requiring additional treatment. So the PSA level decreased 4%, and the vegetarian increased 6% in the meat-eating group. Now, what they did was an interesting thing. They took the blood from those that were on the plant-based diet, and they took blood from those that were on the standard diet, meat-based diet, and they put cancer cells in a petri dish, a little dish, and then they dropped the blood on these cancer cells, and they wanted to see if the blood put on these cancer cells would inhibit them from growth. And what you saw was simply amazing. The blood from those on the plant-based diet inhibit cancer cell growth, prostate cancer, by 70%. Those on the meat-based diet, 9%. So we can see here a dramatic difference, not only in the PSA levels, but just the action of a plant-based diet versus a meat-based diet dripped on the cancer cells. And what we want is the best that we can have, so that the body can fight for us. And this is what we see as a result of the blood, having that right blood, that blood infused with nutrients from the plants. The plants in the original diet that God has given, that God laid down for us and says, this is very good. Now, pomegranate, where a glass of pomegranate juice was given to men with elevated PSA levels. And what they looked was the doubling time. Now, this is a critical piece. Now, what do I mean? Let's say you have a PSA level of 10. And the doubling time will be the time it takes to go from 10 to 20. Now, the sooner that happens, the more concern we have. The longer it takes for that to happen, that shows that this is a slowing process. Now, in this particular study, you see the PSA doubling time significantly increased with treatment. So before treatment, 15 months it took to double its size. Let's say from a number from a 2 to a 4 at baseline. After treatment, it was 54 months before it doubled in size. So the pomegranate actually slowed the growth of this. It had a powerful anti-proliferating effect, suppressing the PSA level. So pomegranates are wonderful. You can get some fresh pomegranate itself. Go for it. Very potent antioxidant, anti-inflammatory. Looking at the onion family and prostate cancer, this was a China study. And you can see the more food from the onion family that were consumed, the less prostate cancer people develop. And you can see here, scallions were the most potent. Garlic was second, and then your onions were third in this example. So scallions, go for it. Garlic, onions, integrate these foods into their diet. They have tremendous health benefit. Now, researchers at Harvard wanted to discover which animal products increase the risk of prostate cancer progression. What did they discover? And I want to just highlight that. Eating less than 1 egg a day doubled the risk of prostate cancer cells progressing. So here you have cancer cells at a certain level, and just by having less than an egg a day, not an egg a day, less than, doubled the risk that the prostate cancer cells would progress and get worse. Eating less than a serving of chicken a day quadrupled 4 times the risk that the prostate cancer progress. So this is what we see. These are some important factors and things to note and to consider adjusting in one's diet, particularly if you have these health issues and more even importantly, if you don't want to get them in the first place. Now, our key factor is insulin-like growth factor 1. It promotes the growth of prostate, breast, colon, and other cancer. Now, I just put the picture of the IGF supplement here just as an illustration. It's probably not something you want to buy. I'm not sure of a reason for getting insulin-like growth factor. I would think people who are bodybuilders and things like that may want to get something like that to promote the growth of muscle or what have you. Now, children who are young have higher levels of insulin-like growth factor. And as we get older, the level in our blood decreases. And that's what should happen, right? Because we're not growing and growing. Well, there are factors that increase the growth when we should be decreasing over time. And so we don't want to be taking insulin-like growth factor 1, and I wouldn't advise anybody to get it or use it, period. Now, if insulin-like growth factor promotes the growth of a number of cancers, then our question is, what inspires it and how can we decrease it? Because actually it's one of those biological factors. I didn't put it as a separate thing, but it is part of the biology that fuels cancer. So people with the highest level have 4.3 times the risk of developing prostate cancer than those with the lowest level. So this is an important factor. It promotes the growth of normal cells at a normal level, and if it's extra high, it will promote the growth of abnormal. So when a cell that's abnormal and the body can't fix it, it's supposed to self-destruct, suicide, apoptosis is what we call it. And if you have higher levels of IGF-1, it's going to block down that process and make this abnormal cell grow. So the highest levels are in meat eaters. It's 9% higher than vegans. And you can see your meat eaters, 236 are vegetarians. They consume dairy and eggs, but no meat. And 238, that's the average level in the blood. And vegans, plant eaters, it's 206. So you see, just by virtue of your diet, your level of IGF-1 is either low or higher. And so it's important to move towards more of a whole plant food diet. So what he found is that men who developed prostate cancer had 8% higher IGF-1 than men who remain healthy. So it's important to consider IGF-1. It's definitely associated with poorer outcomes in men that have prostate cancer. Go towards a plant-based diet, whole plant foods with no dairy, no eggs, no cheese. That's where you want to move towards, wherever you are, for the best in terms of this. So you see here a list of things that increase IGF-1. It's not only the red meats, it's the oil, the saturated fats, the dairies, the processed food, really, the junk type foods, all of that highly refined food accelerates IGF-1 levels. So keep this in mind. High insulin levels are also linked to higher risk of prostate cancer. So high blood sugar levels. Remember, I mentioned blood sugar and I said I wouldn't go into it in detail, but part of it is right here in what we're talking about in terms of prostate cancer. So if the blood sugars are high, 2.5 times the risk of prostate cancer, and then if it was normal, and 8.5 times if the prostate cancer, if the person is obese. So having the high insulin levels and being obese, extremely overweight, risk of prostate cancer goes through the roof. We know that the more weight we have, the higher the inflammation. So you got this inflammation going, you've got this high insulin levels, you have the high sugar levels. So you can see how all these pieces are coming together to fuel the growth of cancer. Breast cancer patients, you can see double the risk, high insulin level. Recurrence, triple the risk of dying just a result of what? High levels of insulin. So the insulin is definitely something that's usually associated with the diet. High-fat diet affects the cells, so that the cells of our body actually are not sensitive to the sugar in the bloodstream. So all this fat is in the cells. So when insulin knocks on the door of the cell and says, open up, you've got some sugar in, and the cell says, no, I've got a lot of fat in here. I don't need it. And then your blood sugar rise and the insulin levels rise to compensate, to try to steal, the sugar's still high. The body is pumping out more and more insulin. And that insulin is also stimulating growth. Okay, so we've got all of these factors together, which are compromising our health. Now, one of the other factors in the animal-based products, in addition to its likelihood of stimulating insulin-like growth factor, is methionine. Methionine is one of those proteins, those amino acids, those building blocks, like the letters of the alphabet that form words. The amino acids form different types of proteins. So you have your hair, which is made from a different combination than your nail. And methionine is one of those building blocks. Now, animals with the lowest concentration of methionine in their tissues live the longest. Okay, MAT for short, okay? Too much methionine acts as a pro-oxidant. So methionine acts like a what? A free radical. Pro-oxidant free radicals the same, accelerate damage, create havoc. All right? Damaged tissue. So cancers of the colon, the breast, the skin, the ovaries, the prostate are dependent on methionine for survival, or they will die. So if they need it to survive, what we want to do is what? We want to starve the cells of methionine. We don't need a lot of methionine. We have too much methionine. The animals don't live long. So if you want to live long, you want a low methionine diet. You want to lower your risk of cancer, you want a low methionine diet. So where do we get it? Now the normal cells thrive without it. And yeah, we have methionine in foods, healthy foods, but the levels are significantly lower than in some foods that are actually associated with higher levels of cancer. Now, what chemo drug companies are doing, they're working on drugs to block methionine. What I think is a better solution is to ask ourselves what foods are high in it, and let's stop eating those, and let's eat more of those foods that are high and that are low in methionine. Here you go. You can see the list right here. You see the scores. Fruits, nuts, vegetables, your beans, you see your animal-based products, all the way up to fish. And fish actually has the highest level of methionine. Methionine is a promoter. You've got chicken and eggs, dairy and eggs and meat, etc., etc. So move towards the plants, and you see the low levels of methionine. So eat more of those, and the fruits and the nuts and the vegetables. You know, you see the beans and the legumes, etc. This is where we want to focus our diet so that we starve the cancer cells of methionine. So that master switch we talked about before regulates a lot of genes involved with all stages of cancer, apoptosis, whether self-suicide, growth, invasion, getting more and more, all of those things we saw in that slide before, it sort of accelerates all of that. So how do we turn off the switch? And this is what we want to do. And these are spices that inhibit it. Some of them we talked about already. We've got flaxseed and garlic and ginger and oregano and rosemary and tamarind and turmeric and licorice and coriander and cinnamon. And so all of these block NF-κB. All right? So there's reasoning for the seasoning. So it's important that we take advantage of these spices and these natural anti-inflammatory, actually inhibitors of this growth and inspiring factor of cancer. So integrate. Now, aromatase inhibitors inhibit the production of estrogen. You see that a promoter of the cancer. So all of these inhibited. These are the phytochemicals in the foods, and then the list of foods here. And you can see them all here. There's oregano there, and parsley, and marjoram, and basil. And my advice would be the ones that have the most of phytochemicals. There are some that have one, but there are things that have three or more, and things like that. Use more of those so you can get that cross section of very potent plants that inhibit aromatase. And so these are things you can do. So let's talk a little bit about breast cancer. We are coming close to our time. And I want to talk a little bit about this. And then I want to end with a testimony of, not actually a testimony. Hopefully we can get to it. It's the findings of a researcher that looked at cancer and individuals that survived escaped death. They were sentenced to die and they did not die. What were the characteristics of those individuals? and some lessons that you can take away from this. First of all, up to 50% of breast cancer cases can be prevented. So that's a good sign. We can prevent it. So let's look at breast cancer. Okay, now they took the blood, 3 types of breast cancers, before and after a low-fat plant-based diet and exercise. So 2 weeks, they put them on a plant-based diet. How long? Not a year, 2 weeks. Drew their blood, put it on different cancer cells. And what was the result? Just like they did with the prostate cancer, estradiol, this is the estrogen, was reduced. Insulin and insulin-like growth factor we reduced. So 3 things that are associated with making cancer cells grow were all reduced just by the blood of people on a plant-based diet compared with those that were not. Now, IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor, IGF-BF, that's actually, it's a chemical that blocks IGF-1. So that increased, the thing that blocked IGF increased. So IGF went down, insulin went down, estrogen went down. So what is it telling us? Cancer is losing the battle. And that's what it's all about. The growth of the 3 breast cancer cell lines was reduced from 6.6% to 18.5%. Just the blood on the cancer cells. So what sort of blood do you have running in your system? What sort of blood do you want to have? You want to have blood cells that fight against cancer or inspire the growth of it? Apoptosis, self-suicide, wars increase. That is cells, they can't fix themselves, they're too damaged, so they self-destruct. And so that's what we want to have. We don't want them to grow, we want them to die and kill themselves. So, highest cancer preventers veggies are alum and cruciferous families. So, in this experiment, they took the extracts of these vegetables and fruit, dropped them on various cancer cell lines. And we see here that there was more than a 50% decrease, blocking inhibit these cancer cells. But when you look at leeks and garlics, 95 to 100% blockage of all these cancer cell lines. So that's in a petri dish, but it works also in people. But before we get there, let's look at some protective factors. Vitamin D, and we're not talking about it in detail, but vitamin D, you can see that daily for 4 years, vitamin D supplements. And what do you get? Decrease in cancer occurrence for a number of cancers, including breast cancer, by over 50%. Can you believe that? 1,100 IUs, international units, of vitamin D3 daily for 4 years decrease cancer occurrence by over 50%. So you want to protect yourself, make sure that your vitamin D levels are up. Lycopene, 30 milligrams, that's where you interfere with the insulin-like growth ability. Lycopene is in tomatoes. So cooked tomatoes is the best source, but 30 milligrams in the supplement. What about these onions and garlic and Brussels sprouts and cabbage? And all of these reduce the enzyme glucuronidase, which increases estrogen production. Is higher on a high fat, low plant-based. So here we go. Lots of onions and garlic and apples and broccoli and cabbage and some of the things that were dripped on the cancer cells in a petri dish, yet are showing these beneficial effects in the lives of people. And let's look at protective factors for breast cancer. Regular exercise, reduce onset of breast cancer 20 to 30%, 48 studies. Can you believe that just by exercise? The cabbage family, Okay, greater than 5 days a week. And we see here turns toxic estrogen into a safe product. So just changing this around so that it's to our benefit. Breastfeeding, very important, 3% decrease for every 5 months of total breastfeeding. And you can see in the handout where it explains why. Ground flaxseed, 2 tablespoons a day, inhibit the growth of breast cancer cells 70%. Decrease risk in women of a particular gene expression. So, and maintain a healthy body weight. You see that decrease, significant decrease. So let's talk about recurrence or enhanced survival of breast cancer. This is good. Walking 3 to 5 hours a week. These are women with stage 1 to stage 3 breast cancer. Their risk of dying was decreased by 50%. Just by what? Walking 3 to 5 hours per week. So get moving. It works. Low-fat diet. Wonderful. 24% decrease risk of recurrence. 40% decreased risk in estrogen-negative cancers. Yeah, estrogen positive, estrogen negative. Low-fat diet. Your carotenoids in all of your vegetables. 30 to 43% benefits. Soy, 23% risk reduction, occurrence of breast cancer just by consuming soy products. Those that were using TAM, tamoxifen users who had breast cancer who used soy, so you see this increased survival 62%. Mind body interaction, learning how to rest, reduce breast cancer recurrence by 57%. You see the benefits of having this hopeful, positive outlook, and the foods and the exercise, all of those. This is the real tamoxifen study. Women who ate the most cruciferous vegetables, 50% lower rate of recurrence. The HEAL study, another one of African Americans, you can see when they ate their eating habits, 60% lower risk of all-cause and 88% lower risk of breast cancer related death. Women who ate the fewest dietary calories from fat, refill increase in survival on the low-fat diet, higher fiber, you see the survival rates, higher vegetables, and the highest survival, 63%, were those within the higher fruits. So the fruits and the vegetables, and in this example, the fruits were even weighed out more than the vegetables, but obviously I will combine them all. The fiber, high fruits, high vegetables. Fasted for overnight for 13 hours. So this study looked at those who you had a longer break between dinner and the meal the next day. You decrease recurrence and death rate significantly. So if you eat your last meal earlier and you have 13 or more hours before your breakfast or your next meal, you have better outcomes than individuals who have a shorter period of time. And this fasting actually helps the body fight against cancer cells. And some studies have actually put individuals on a fast for a couple of days before chemo, and they actually did better than those that did not fast. Cancer cells do not like if you're on a fasting state, they don't function well. We need to be balanced, know when to and when not to, depending on how healthy people are and where they are in this whole process. But this just shows the importance of making sure your dinner is early so that you have this longer fast between eat anything else. And this is a significantly shown benefit in breast cancer survival. Okay, what about the berries? I know we talked about the protein anti-inflammatory effects. In this study, precancerous lesions sourced in the mouth, they rubbed it with an oral gel of black raspberry for 4 times a day for 6 weeks, and guess what happens? The response to treatment ranged from modest improvement to complete clinical regression. Regression meaning the growth disappears. In fact, tumor suppressor genes were turned back on, inhibiting the growth of cancer, just like raspberries. What about esophageal lesions in the throat? These precancers, which were in this process of could have gotten out of control and turned into full-blown cancer, they're given the equivalent of 1 pound of fresh strawberries a day. And what happened? There was an amazing transformation. And I actually missed that progress slide. After 6 months, the survival was amazing. The decrease in cancer, high amounts. Well, let's talk a little bit about curcumin. It looks like my time is going to an end. Curcumin is very powerful. The root is used and it has many actions. And you can see there and you can read them yourself. So it actually, people who use chemotherapy and radiation, they do better if they have curcumin. It protects against the bad effects and it helps it work better. And it helps even if you don't use them. So curcumin is God's blessing to us. So colorectal cancer benefits, cervical cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, lung cancer, liver cancer, stomach cancer. And this slide here looks busy, busy, busy. What am I talking about here? I want to say one thing about this slide, and the reason I put it in there. Right smack in the middle, you see curcumin targets. And you look at the top and you see all of these drivers of cancer. They're all drivers on the left and the right. And to the far right, you see those are drugs. All drugs, and each one of them are targeting what? One aspect, one driver of cancer. But guess what? Curcumin fights against all of them. Isn't that amazing that God put in these plants the ability to fight for us and to keep us well and to help us get well if we're unwell? Amazing. And this is an example here. You can see the control group. You can see the drug Taxol. You can see, this is in mice example here, right? Breast cancer metastasis. You can see the decrease, Taxol decrease. Curcumin, it decreased, and then curcumin plus Taxol, it decreased even more. So you see this steady decrease in the effect of this cancer when curcumin was added to the mix. This is another drug, F5FU, and you can see here that the curcumin, let's look at if you're looking at the graph here, I just want to talk about it. Now, FU increased the growth of cancer stem cells. So the chemo drug increased the growth of stem cells. So what would that mean? That in the end, this cancer will more likely come right back, because you're promoting the growth of something that promotes the growth. You get more. The stem cells result in producing more daughter cells. But curcumin was most effective in suppressing this here, and only in suppressing this stem cell. So curcumin was very effective. So this is something that works amazing. Stem cells can hide from chemotherapy, survive treatment, and cause cancer to recur, sometimes years later. However, now in this example, BCM95, that's a supplement. You typed in on the web, it'll come up and you can buy it off the market. And they started before They gave the F5FU, sensitized the cancer stem cells to chemotherapy treatment, and reduced the amount of the drug that was needed to inhibit the growth of cancer. So they needed far less because they added this combination, which is frankincense and curcumin, right? Those are two used in this combination here. Powerful natural remedies. 500 milligrams to 1 gram of BCM 95, and this is advice by one of the study researchers. This is recommended by him in terms of individuals who have cancer and individuals who want to prevent it. So it's important to get guidance. You're a natural practitioner. You can connect with me. So there are no interactions with other things, but this is just an example of two combinations that may be very effective, and you can buy them as supplements. And wonderful things. In clinical trials, this is polyps in the colon. You see some amazing post-treatment. You see polyp size. Polyps can go on to form cancer, dangerous cancer. You can see the precancerous polyps, which was decreased 60%, 60.4%, and the number and the size, 50 to 50.9%. These are in people just by taking in this curcumin and quercetin combination. And you see the amount there. So this is in real people. This is another one looking at growths, and we see a reduction in these type of cells in the body that can result in full-blown cancer if not addressed, and we see the 40% reduction. And a third, using another turmeric combination, we see this reduced proliferation as a result of utilizing turmeric. And here we go again. So this is colorectal cancer. You see benefits here. I'm not going to go through all of that. Apoptosis, self-suicide, increased significantly with the curcumin. Look at the top. You see before and you see after. All right, the death of cells, self-suicide as a result of that. Tumor suppressor genes, you see that. Beautiful, increasing as a result of consuming curcumin in colorectal cancer. So this is amazing. And then this is a type 2 trial. This is someone with advanced pancreatic cancer. Fiber rate is 3%. And this one person, they were given 8 grams of curcumin for 2 months. And one had ongoing stable disease for 18 months. And one had a brief partial remission, 70% reduction in tumor size in 1 month. And this is, you can see here, as a result, when they were taking the dose. And what I want to show you just is one slide. And see on the left, you see that large piece of looks all white. That's the tumor. And this is, and then if you look to the right, you see that reduction, 73% in 1 month, and then it came back. We see a significant decrease. The question I would ask is, did they do anything else? Were they following all the other lifestyle? And maybe that's the only thing they were doing. So if we want to get it and do our best to get it away from us and stay away, we need to incorporate all the components. So we're going to end. I'm going to give you just a few minutes. I just got to finish this for you. Radical remission, surviving cancer against all odds. Her name was Kelly A. Turner, PhD, cancer research, analyzed the clinical data of more than 1,000 cases in print of cancer patients. She interviewed approximately 100 cases. And what were the characteristics? They were sentenced to die. The doctors had did all they could, and they did, there's nothing else we can do. You're just going to have to get your house in order. But they survived. So what were those 9 things they did? And I want to leave you with those 9 things they did. Those are 9 things that not only will work with cancer, they can work with any number of challenges that people may have. Okay, so now what was amazing, first of all, is their doctors were happy for their amazing results, but they didn't want them to share what they did with other patients. Not sure why. Dr. determined to find out what these patients did and then share it with the public. So what did they do? She uncovered 9 lifestyle factors, and we're going to go through them in a breeze. Number 1, they radically changed their diets. This piecemeal operation, that's not what you want to do. You got serious problems, you got serious issues, you need to go all the way. Take out all the stops and do everything you can. So first thing, they greatly eliminated sugar, meat, refined foods, and dairy products from the diet. They greatly increased fruit and vegetables intake, including freshly made juice. They ate more organic foods and they drank filtered water. These are mostly US-based individuals and the chlorine and all of that. So that's what they did nutritionally. 2, they took control of their health. The word patient comes from the Latin word petty, which means to suffer, to allow, to submit. So what we want to do is more than to submit, we want to take personal responsibility. We need to take charge. Health professionals were viewed by these individuals more like a well-respected consultant. They were the drivers. They were the ones inside, because if all of them went home and gave up and did nothing, they would have all passed on. But what they decided to do is, I'm not going to sit back and I'm not going to take this diagnosis. I'm not going to submit to the idea that there's nothing I can do. So take control. It's essential to your healing process. It is the opposite of being overly passive, not standing up for oneself and always trying to please others. So this type C personality, this passiveness, right, is not good for growth and development and fighting against cancer. So stand up, take charge, be responsible, and get in the driver's seat. Ask for advice, but you ultimately are the driver. Be willing to evaluate your current lifestyle habits and make changes, even if the changes are difficult, very difficult. Your diet, your stressful job, your activity level, your toxic relationships, whatever those things are, take control. Stand your ground against criticism for adding non-conventional treatment options to your recovery. Refuse to accept, right, that you have a defined period of time left. Because if you believe it, your body will follow that belief. Number 3, follow your intuition, your internal voice. And thine ear shall hear a voice behind you saying, this is the way, walk you in it when you turn to the right hand and when you turn to the left. Dr. Wayne Dyer put it this way: if prayer is you talking to God, then intuition is God talking to you. So listen with that still small voice, and God will direct you. This is my belief. This is where I believe intuition comes from. It's that voice. Pray with complete confidence in God's promise for your situation. Search the Bible for promises that can never fail. Speak with persons who have your true interest in heart. 4, use herbs and supplements, and we talked about some of them already. Specific herbs and supplements at targeted amounts have tremendous benefit. Number 5, release stress emotion. Your stress, your fears, your regrets, your losses, your trauma from the past will hold on to suppress. If you hold on to suppress our immune system, keep us in the fight or flight mode and prevent us from experiencing the rest and repair. So you want rest and repair, not fight and flight. And rest and repair, let those things go, right? Let them go, let them go. To begin is to set a prisoner free and discover that the prisoner was you. Forgiveness is making a conscious choice to release someone who has wounded us from a sentence. We do not condone what they do, right? But we let it go. Your journal, your emotions, both positive and negative, for at least several weeks, and allow your feelings to come and go. Rise and fall, grief expressed is grief exchanged. Evaluate your self-talk, your beliefs that give rise to your emotions. Replace the rational beliefs with true statements about yourself. 9, increase positive emotion, love, joy, peace. happiness, release chemicals from our brains to improve our immune function, lower our blood pressure, speed healing, a merry heart, be good like a medicine, but a broken spirit, try for good. We know that everything works together for good. So trust it, give it to God. They embrace social support, get connected with friends and family and support, engage in a range of activity, conversation that have nothing to do with your health condition. So not all about what you're going through. Number 7, deepen their spiritual connection. Engage in positive small groups, weekly church service, Bible study, promises. All of those are important. And number 9, they had a strong reason for living. That you're chosen, you're royal, you're holy, you're peculiar. That you should show forth the praises of him who has called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Your challenges are there for a reason. God will use them to bless you and will use you. And many people have said, some, not several that I'm aware of, this cancer was the best thing that happened to my life because it put me in a place where now I let by those things that were not important, and those things that were really important, I embrace. So I'm encouraging you to embrace this and to experience the miraculous transformation that others say will not happen, cannot happen, but it can. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you for this time. I thank you that you have solutions, and those principles of health are amazing in what they can do as we apply them. It's like the fruit, it's like the seed, and we plant the seed, the fruit is. So help us as we endeavor to put into practice the principles, the biology of cancer, and follow those principles so that we can experience health and healing and that we can share this with others. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen, amen. Thank you, Dr. Gibbons, for that very important and practical information regarding the blocking the biology that fuels cancer. Just another note, a master quiz answer tally sheet was to be sent out with the course materials, and it apparently was inadvertently omitted. So you should be receiving this week that sheet so that you can record your quiz answers and keep a tally each week, and it will be submitted at the end of the 8-week course so that you can receive your certificate of participation. So our apologies for that omission. We just want to thank you again, Dr. Gibbons, for that literal life-saving information on blocking the biology of cancer. Please join us next Sunday at 8:30 for session 3, where the topic is how to become heart attack proof. Pastor.
Thank you so much, Rosalind and team and Dr. Gibbons. The information is invaluable. We want to encourage you to invite others to this platform next Sunday at 8:30. And as you just heard, our subject is dealing with how to become heart attack proof. We are trusting the merit system with your quiz results. Please keep them. And at the end, we have a wonderful presentation of certificate and goodies for the winner of each quiz. So please be attentive. Please participate. Again, thank you, Dr. Gibbons. Let's close in prayer. Father, the information has been provided. Give us now the inspiration to follow so that we can take care of these body temples of ours and maximize our time on this earth to your glory. We pray in Christ's name, amen. Thanks again, everyone, and God bless. Goodbye. Have a great day.